Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Living Life by Design. Today we have yet another really special guest. We have Adam Hall in the house. Adam, thanks for being on the show, brother.
Jeff, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so what I really like about what we do here at Live Life by Design is we have a lot of guests that I'm just getting to meet in person for the first time. So, again, I love just the ad-lib type of philosophy where there's nothing rehearsed. We just turn on the mic and we have a convo. So just for my own learning and all the listeners and viewers, talk to us about where you were born, where you were raised, and how we get to be in this seat today.
Yeah.
Talk to us.
I'm originally from Bonners Ferry, Idaho. It's a northernmost town in Idaho, up past Coeur d'Alene. God's country, as a lot of people call it. I grew up hunting and fishing and made my way down to Boise State to wrestle there in college. I was a two-time All-American, two-time Pac-10 champ. And straight out of college, I went from there to, I had a great opportunity to coach on staff at Columbia University in New York City. And I was out there for 4 years.
So hold on. So graduated from Boise State and then straight to Columbia?
Yep, straight out of college. And it was a unique opportunity, like jumping right on staff. A lot of times you get out of college and you're looking at a grad assistant or director of operations role or volunteer assistant, and I had an opportunity to be right on staff, right in the thick of things, and it was a lot. It was overwhelming.
And did you go to school as well as you were on the staff?
I did. I got my master's degree there at Columbia. And
what was your master's in?
In sport management.
Nice.
Yeah. It was a unique opportunity being in one of the biggest media markets in the world. And
growing up in Idaho, hunting and fishing.
Yep.
Did you ever in your wildest dreams imagine that you'd end up at Columbia University in New York?
No, in fact, all the places that I've made stops at coaching wise, I never imagined I'd live there. There were a lot of different places that I thought I might be, but New York City was not one of them. And it was on a whim. I went out, somebody was like, there's an opening, you should go check it out. And I did, and I came back and I was like, I don't know, I feel like I got to take this job.
That's cool.
It's just one of those that's just like the opportunity was too good.
And how was it doing your math? I mean, Columbia is a very demanding school, right?
Yeah.
So how did you harmonize the schooling, a master's degree, along with being on a coaching staff?
Number one, I had some great coaches around me that I was actually coaching. I was still competing on the international stage, and I was trying to get my master's degree. So I was kind of like, you know how you feel in times in your life, you're like, I can never be any more busy.
Yeah.
And then it's like you do this, and then you get married.
Did you have a fan? Okay.
No.
Here we go.
I actually met my now wife the last 2 or 3 months of my master's degree and my time at Columbia before I was moving on to another job. And so I think in anything it was God's timing, and I was really fortunate to be in the position that I was in, and have the people around me that, like I said, that took some burden off of me. So my focus and role was on the guys in the day-to-day, a little bit of recruiting, but it was training and competing with these guys and getting my master's. So
yeah, so that's delegation right there. That's empowering your people. So talk to us about that, because we have a lot of entrepreneurs that watch the show. And I know in conversing with them that a lot of them struggle with delegating. Quite often it's like, I got to do it my way, or if I have somebody else do it, they're not going to do it as well as I do it. How do you empower? How do you delegate so that you can, multiply your efforts?
I think as you probably heard this is clear is kind. Clarity is very important.
You said clear as kind?
Clear as kind. Like once people understand, it's like they appreciate the fact that you have explained exactly what you're thinking. I'm not trying to build robots on our team nor on our staff. I want people to be individuals, but I want people to we also need to come to understanding of what the common goal is and what we're trying to accomplish. And within that, like, I want you to be able to figure that out and honestly make mistakes. That's the one thing I had above me is in the previous roles I was in before becoming a head coach. I had people who helped me through making mistakes and trying to figure things out because I cared. I was willing to work hard, but I'm not perfect, and neither are the people now working underneath me. And I think there are a few things, and I often resort back to this, that I think are clear-cut ways to manage people the right way, and that's building a successful business, company, managing your family. I think there are a few like three things that probably are really important in that process, and that's role responsibility, communication, and accountability. And I try to actively work on those three things with my family, with our team, with peers like other coaches, and just in our administration. And I think those are really important. And when you go back to what you're talking about in terms of delegating, when you're actively working on those things and people know what they need to do, they know their role, they know that there are boundaries, they know what your expectations are, then I think it helps them grow and succeed more than anything.
No, that's super key. I mean, quite often, I'll ask, and I point out here because this is where my company is, and I'll ask, have you explained to your people what success looks like? Do they even know what the definition of success is with the role that they are supposed to fulfill? Like, have you created that clarity? Because uncertainty kills execution. Clarity is king. And I love what you said that. How did you say it again?
The three things that
the kind one. Clear
is kind.
Clear is kind.
Yeah, clarity is key.
Yeah, it's key to everything.
everything.
And sometimes I think we automatically assume by default they know what clarity should be. It's almost like, well, they should know what to know. You need to explain. You need to over communicate. The biggest problem in business, in marriage, in life is lack of proper, clear, concise communication. So I love what you're speaking my language. So let's unpack those three a little bit more. Let's start with communication. How do you make sure that your communication is crystal clear and you're not playing the telephone game when the message gets lost by the third person?
I think as a leader, you can't be afraid to just explicitly say what's on your mind. And it's not in a way like I don't ever feel like it's a power trip. Unless somebody is like actively going against the grain, actively being selfish, actively going against culture, then that's a different conversation. It's probably something that needs to be done in private and helping, like, before you're jumping down their throat, let me try to understand where you're coming from. Maybe something's going on in your personal life and it's affecting now your work life, and everything you're thinking about is now being involved in work. It may be something that you're not even completely thinking about.
So right here, have you ever run into situations where you were almost going to respond a certain way, but then you step back, got clarity, got their point of view, and it's like, oh wow, I had this really wrong.
Yeah. I learned that a lot from my previous stop, which after I was at Columbia for 4 years, and my next stop was at North Carolina State, and I was there for 9 years. And I was under a very good head coach, and he had built a strong program. I was coming into year 3 for him, and he'd built a very good culture and had high expectations. And I think the big thing watching him as a leader, he would often step back and observe and wait. And me as a go getter, it was frustrating at times, but I now being on the other side, I understand where he's trying to process that information. So when he makes the decision, it is right. It is like, I have the full picture, I have all the information, and it's now clear.
Yeah.
And I had to learn that and really digest that now as a leader, because I've made some mistakes where it's like, you feel like you have to accomplish everything in year 1, and you don't, and you shouldn't. And as things continue to grow, and as you build a culture, it doesn't happen overnight. And sometimes you have to sit back, and there's things that you have to make a decision right now. And there's things that can wait until the end of the week, give it a month, whatever it is. There may not be an exact timeline on it, and that's okay.
Yeah. So you've mentioned culture a few times, and I ask this question all the time on the show, but what's your definition of culture?
Culture to me is a collective buy-in towards a common goal.
Cool. Love that. And then how do you make sure that you're creating the culture by design instead of just by default?
You have to have, I think, a good blend of what you would consider like high expectations, but at the same time, you have to have an element of organic growth. Everything can't be forced. You can have expectations put into place, but again, you're dealing with human beings. And in my case, you're managing 18 to 23-year-olds. And when you boil it down to, our job is based on the academic and athletic results of 18 to 23-year-olds. That's kind of scary when you think about it, that it's like that they're human beings, they're young individuals, they're at a very formative time of their life, and that's in a lot of ways tough because they're gonna make mistakes. Sometimes they're making mistakes repeatedly or on purpose, and so you're trying to educate them and hold them accountable and help them understand that what they're doing and going through is you're setting yourself up for your life, whether you think you are or not, because when you get out into the real world, there are people that don't care about you as much as we do, and they have even higher expectations than we do. And you have this space to fail and have a mentor around you and to help you through that. And I think that's pretty cool. And I think that's why our relationships with our guys are vital. And when you go back to the culture, it's all about relationships at the end of the day. And when I came in as the head coach, I didn't just explicitly say like, this is how it's going to be done. This is what I expect of you. You better not do this, and like all these things. It was like these were the expectations. This is where we're trying to get to, and trying to help you understand what my vision is and what my expectation, what my goals are. And I'm trying to hear in what your goals and expectations are too, because I'm trying to call you to be bigger and better at the end of the day.
So talk to me about the team construct. So what makes up a wrestling team at the college level? Like how many people on your staff, how many wrestlers, how does that all work?
Yeah, we have, with this new era of a roster cap with 30 guys, there's a little bit of leeway, but I mean, right now we have 33 guys on our roster. I have 3 other assistant coaches on our staff, plus a director of operations. In addition to that, we have a good support staff. We have a dietitian who works with our team. We have a sports psychologist who works with our team. We have our athletic trainer and also our academic advisor. And every Tuesday we meet as a staff, like as a whole with our support staff, and we try to just get an idea about our guys individually and what their needs are and where they are currently at. And you're trying to manage I like to say we lead people and we manage problems.
Love that.
Because it is true.
Yeah, I always say you lead people, you manage systems, but I love that you say I manage problems. That's cool.
Because it often feels like you're putting out fires. Just that, our guys joke like, sometimes like I think they know, but they still give us a hard time. And we tell them like, when we actually get to go work out, when we actually are physically present with you guys, that is what we get to do, what we love to do. All the stuff behind the scenes that you probably see from time to time, like recruiting and all the paperwork, all the business stuff, setting up events, and that's stuff that we have to do, and that's part of the job. It's what we signed up for. But we try to keep our guys in perspective and just help them understand that what they're doing is you're in kind of a bubble. You are, and we want to kind of like pop that bubble because you're living in I won't say a fantasy, but what you're doing is very unique. And don't get me wrong, you're an elite Division I athlete, but just understand that there's a lot going on around you and outside. And we try to, when you talk about building a culture, it's also holistically too. Like we take our guys every year before school starts to the primary children's hospital, just so they get an understanding of like what's out there. I tell our guys often, what you do is relatively hard. Don't get me wrong, like wrestling is really tough. Being a Division I athlete, a lot of pressure, you're in school, all these things is really tough. But don't lose sight of the fact that what you do is relatively tough, right? You go and see a kid who's 8 years old who has leukemia. Like they didn't choose that tough. They didn't choose that. So just understand like the impact you have and the position that you have as a Division I athlete. You're making these kids day, month, year because of your presence, because you're physically there with them. And I want you to take something away from that, not just what you're giving to them, but also the perspective you're getting from being outside of this bubble.
Man, wow. Super powerful. So 30 wrestlers on the team, and that's the cap. If there wasn't a cap, would you have even more? How does that work?
Yeah. When I got here last April, by the time I had my staff filled out in July, we had 16 new guys coming to us. And it was just, in the very beginning, as you can imagine, it was a lot of 16 to 20-hour days because before I had filled out our staff, it was, I was the one.
You're doing everything.
Everything. Itineraries, calling kids, calling parents, picking people up from the airport, doing all the busy work, running practice, doing individuals. It was a lot. I didn't sleep much. But when you're trying to do it right, you know the things that you have to do versus the things that you want to do, obviously.
And by the way, people just look at the highlights, right?
Yeah.
People just look at the rings, the
Yep.
hoisting of the trophy. What people don't realize and don't really pay attention to is everything you just mentioned. Like, you know, we like these NBA legends, these NFL legends, these wrestling legends, and we think that they just got there via fast pass.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all this minutia and all this stuff that's tough. Correct me if I'm wrong, but getting on the wrestling mat is easy.
Yeah.
Like being on the wrestling, like in the competition is easy. It's all the stuff leading up to it, that is hard.
Yep.
It's like they say, champions are not made in the ring. They're merely recognized there. But it's all that work that you do with your team that is tough, that people don't want to deal with. You know, I bring up the whole Kobe thing. People want the 5 rings, but they're not willing to wake up at 5 a.m. like he did. So big lesson there. And then, so you have 4 on the coaching staff, including you. Then you have your massive support staff. And then and you got to recruit, you got to do all these things. And then I know that other sports take a lot of the money that the university gets. So how do you deal with the money constraints and with all the recruiting and all? It's just so much. How do you deal with all this, quote unquote, chaos and fog of war?
Yeah, I understood that taking this role, a big part of what I do now is people raising, fundraising, and building relationships with people and sharing a vision and what that looks like for success. And when I walk into lunch meetings, dinner meetings with different people that may not understand what we do yet, I don't ask for money. I share a vision of success and how we're going to get there and the important pieces of that and what I'm trying to do. And I try to point towards where their money will go, exactly where it goes. I can tell you where it's going. And I think that creates a lot of buy-in for people. They get excited that they're directly impacting people and
Clear as
thus
kind.
a program. Exactly.
Clear as kind.
Exactly. And I don't think a lot of people are willing to do that. They don't want to give out as much information as they should, because they may want to use it in a different way. And that's fine. Like, that's just me as a leader, again, clear as kind, and without giving away too much information. Like, there's certain information that's only privy to our staff. But at the end of the day, like, when people understand this is exactly where your money is going, and it's going to our guys, and it's going to our trips, and it's going to our gear, and it's going to people, and it's affecting them directly, it draws out a certain emotion.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, and you can answer or you can choose to not answer, but how much does it take to, like, get a good wrestling team put together for a year? Like, how much money does it usually require?
That's a great question. I mean, I like to think that most smaller, per se, mid-major programs are operating at $1 million or less.
Yeah.
Wrestling is
so not too crazy.
No. And
comparison to other
wrestling
sports
is
out
one
there.
of the most economically friendly sports for an athletic department, because once you have the initial setup, like mats, like certain equipment, just shoes, there's not much to it. There really isn't.
Just the travel.
Yep.
And all
Yep.
that
It's
other
travel,
stuff.
it's salaries, it's scholarships. But I know out there that we're trying to compete with teams that have 5 to 10 times the budget we have. And at the end of the day, as long as we are getting our guys the essentials plus some kind of X factor, and I can dive into that a little bit more in terms of, like, the people we actually have involved with our program outside of our support staff. You're talking about bringing in elite level training partners. You're trying to keep, like, this last year we had an All-American. He was a senior. He just graduated, but he wants to stick around with the program. So you're trying to keep a guy around like that who elevates the room to the highest level, right? You're trying to bring in people that maybe I coached in the past at other places that are still having success on the world level. And you're trying to bring them in to, again, you're raising the profile of the room. You're getting our guys better training partners. And on top of that, like, we have an exercise physiologist that tracks our team daily, and we pay him to monitor our guys and their cardiovascular profiles after he tests their VO2 max. He is tracking them daily with the resting heart rate. And the proof was in the pudding this last year. Like, our All-American He was deemed the most fit of the entire season at the national tournament.
Wow.
Exactly when we needed him to peak. And it was by these biometrics that it wasn't just, it took a lot of guesswork out of what we're doing. But again, it costs money, right? And it's something that I have to fundraise for.
Wow.
And I'm more than willing to do that because I know it works. And I know that if you're trying to make a difference and catch up to the elite of the elite, you have to find these X factors that are going to help your program grow. And on top of that, having a dietitian that works directly with our team. And as you can imagine, a weight class sport, our guys are really having to manage their weight throughout the year. So like all of these elements, like they matter, they're important, and you should spend money on them. Whereas like at this level, for maybe per se a mid-major, people might see that as like, what, that's unnecessary. If it means like if it's the difference between getting somebody on the All-American podium or not, are you going to spend the money? Yes, 100% of the time, every time.
Yeah. No, again, as you're going through all this, I'm like, holy cow, all the moving parts, all the things that are required to get these guys on the mat in a competition to be successful. It's all the work behind the scenes. It's spiritual, it's romantic, it's heavy, it's all the things.
Yeah.
It's all the things. So, I mean, you as a head coach, before you sat down, I'd be like, oh yeah, he trains the guys, he teaches them some moves, and no, you're recruiting, you're fundraising, like you're having a mentor, like it's a 24/7, 365 job.
Yeah. And you're not considering the fact that they're students as well.
They're student
athletes. And so
yeah, and
when I took the job, our AD told me from the very beginning and then reminded me when I got here that we had the second lowest men's GPA in the department. I told him it would change. And he kind of sat back and was just, okay. And within one semester, we had the highest term GPA we've ever had. And within 1 year, we had the highest cumulative GPA we've ever had.
Wow.
And people were like, how did it happen so quickly? I said, we held them accountable. We communicated our expectations really clearly, and guys knew what their role was. Some guys we knew had the capability of getting a 4.0, and some guys, our team standard. One day I asked our team, is it reasonable to get a 3.2 GPA at our school? And everybody said, yeah. I said, then that's the standard. And some guys, they struggle to get there, but they have the resources that are necessary. They have an academic advisor that loves our guys and is willing to help them and do what they need. We have academic mentors. We have all the tutoring we could need. So at the end of the day, it's about putting in the work and holding guys accountable. And from the get-go, we did that. And overnight, you could see just the change in the hustle, the change in the expectations. Because all of a sudden, they were being held accountable in areas that they weren't held accountable before. And that's cool, right? Because again, I'm telling our guys, you're setting yourself up for success for the rest of your life by what you're doing right now. At the end of the day, like people look at your resume and it matters. It helps that you can put on there that you were a Division I athlete, but at the end of the day, there are a lot of competitive people out there. And how are you going to set yourself apart?
Love that. So a couple things that you mentioned that I want to unpack. So let's start with what happens post-graduation, right? Because they have so many advisors, so many resources. You're measuring, all the things, their nutrition, you're holding them accountable. There's that really robust system. And now they exit that system and now they're in that quote unquote real world. They're out of that bubble, as you mentioned. What do you do? What design work do you have put together so that they can be successful post UVU, post being graduated from your team?
Yeah, part of it is showing them what they should be doing to manage their life well. We had a meeting yesterday with one of our guys who just wants to get his life a little more, I would say, on track and scheduled. And we appreciated that. He came to us. I think he was doing a good job before. He was a starter for us last year, and he's looking to build on that. But he just wanted to be able to manage his time better than he already is. And I thought that was really cool for him to see that. For other guys, it's like, hey, we know you're not managing your time well. We know that you're missing out on things. And part of that framework that we built within that accountability is we get grade checks every 2 weeks. Like we know week to week, like if a guy misses an assignment, we have a team, we have pretty robust team rules. And one of the team rules is if you miss an assignment and we get that report, you're missing the next workout. And guys hate it. They hate missing workouts, right? They may not mind missing a running workout or a lifting, but missing getting on the mat, that's a different thing.
Was that policy, was that standard, did that exist before you joining? Did that exist last year?
No.
Okay.
And again, there's some things that, like, when you're trying to turn a program around that should be at a certain level and isn't, there's probably certain things that are going on. And I also like to say that whether it's a family, it's a business, it's a company, you're only as good as what you allow.
Yes. You promote what you tolerate.
Yep.
And I'm assuming, have you read Extreme Ownership? I'm assuming you have. Okay. So do you agree with the notion that Jocko Willink brought up where he says there is no such thing as a bad team, only bad leaders?
Bad leaders.
Do you agree with that?
I take that to heart because at the end of the day, you can take a group of individuals and they could be the bad news bears, right? But you've seen it in different ways. You've heard of cultures changing. You've seen it on movies where you've built relationships with these people and you see fundamentally them change. Are you ultimately changing them as human beings? Like, in some ways, yes, in some ways, no. But at the end of the day, you're trying to find what makes sense for them personally. And I think that when you're trying to build a culture, you're trying to meet people where they're at and to help them see the other side. And some people resist it more than others, right? But at the end of the day, we didn't really talk about part of culture is saying no to some things too, and that means letting some people go that need to be let go because, one, they're selfish, two, they're not willing to change, three, it's not the right fit.
Yeah, I love that.
So
yeah, quite often, or more often than not, the things you say no to, or the people you say no to, are more important than the people that you say yes to, the things that you say yes to. And it takes guts to say no. It's easy to say yes to everybody and everything. So it's those things that you're willing to say no to. So these athletes, how many hours a week are they spending in the sport of wrestling? Like, what's that time commitment look like? Just curious.
So our training schedule is pretty standard throughout the year and even into the summer. We're on the mat Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Wednesdays are generally an off day, and a lot of our guys choose to come in and get individual work. They'll come in on their own, or, hey, I want you to watch some things that I'm doing and just give feedback. Saturdays, we will move to that. That's another additional day that we get on the mat, and that's generally right after we have a match on Friday. So we have some immediate feedback.
So matches usually Fridays?
Usually Friday, like a Friday night duel, and that's us versus another team. And sometimes there's like a Friday, Saturday tournament, and that's a little bit more extensive. But usually on our schedule, right after we have a match, we try to get on the mat so it's fresh, and we're trying to address the areas that we need to address so we can keep moving forward before we have to plan for the next match. That's cool. So it's like you don't want to just like, oh, that happened. It's kind of like in the Army, they say, like, I think it's an after action review. And it's what went well, what didn't, and the things that didn't go well, why did they not go well, and how do we address them so they are better for the next time and they don't happen again.
How long does it take these athletes to recover after a Friday match?
If they're getting the right sleep and we're promoting the right things, rest and recovery, generally they're a little sore the next day, but these guys are elite. They're elite athletes. Like, is everybody going to be sore? Sure. Are some guys going to be banged up? Sure. My college coach used to remind our team that there's a difference between being hurt and being injured. Like, everybody's hurting. Everybody's a little banged up. Everybody's got a sore thumb, a tweaked ankle, whatever. Like, that's different than having a torn ACL and you're having to fight through that. You know, because wrestling's we're a little bit different. Where in some sports, you tweak a knee, you tear an ACL, you're done. Like, there's no questions, like, you're done. In wrestling, there's generally a choice for the athletes. Like, I've seen some guys win national titles with torn ACLs.
Jeez.
Could I do it? Maybe. Is it going to be very difficult? Sure. And just like seeing what the capability of human beings is pretty incredible, you know? And so that you try to keep that framework and understanding, like, you're limiting yourself by what you choose what kind of ceiling you put on yourself.
And then what's the travel look like?
We travel quite a bit. We're like, this year we're traveling to California, we're traveling to Oklahoma, we're traveling to St. Louis, we're traveling to Chattanooga. We're kind of all over the country. The Big 12s, because we're in the Big 12 for wrestling, and so that's a big deal for us. So we have a lot of high profile matches, and we have a really tough schedule.
Yeah. Out of your schedule, does every match look tough, or do you have, like, I had Danny Sprinkle in here yesterday. We were talking about his schedule at Washington University, and he's like, dude, it's all insane. It's all like a war. There's not one single game where we're like, hey, we can kind of take this one easy, or we know we can get a dub here.
Yeah.
Like every game is just insane. Is that the same in your world?
I would say this year,
and I know you have to respect all opponents, but I'm just curious.
I would say this year, absolutely, more so than last year. Last year we had some teams that I expected to beat. Not necessarily saying this year. Like, there are definitely teams that I have on the schedule that I expect to beat. Last year, just to give you an idea, my goal for the year was to finish 500, and it's crazy coming from a team like NC State that finished in the top 10 several years that I was there, and we brought back a team trophy. We finished 4th in the country one year. And to come from a place like that and still try to carry those expectations and to say, like, we would be overachieving with this team this year if we finished 500. We finished 7-9, just below 500. And looking back on it, we had 4 duels, us against one other team, where it came down to the last match of the night. And I don't think a lot of people on paper would have ever expected us to be in a dogfight with a team like that. And one of them was NC State. Like, I told our head coach when I left, I said, if you want, we'll get on the schedule. We'll come to you. And he's like, that'd be great. And we came to them, and it came down to the last match of the night, and the arena was quiet. And it was just, we brought the energy. I said, like, they're probably going to take us lightly because just they probably aren't expecting much out of us, but we control what we can control. And we had a couple things go our way, and we had some dog fights, and we ended up losing last year 4 matches against nationally ranked top 25 teams that came down to the last match. So we were on the cusp of being a team that was over 500, that was making a statement right away. We were just so close to it. And you think, like, in year one, like I said, I don't think anybody, like fans, our administration, probably thought that we were going to beat 2 top 25 teams on the year, and we were going to be in dogfights with 4 other teams, And so, but again, I didn't blink an eye. I was like, I expect to beat these teams. Like, we walk in, they may not be thinking that, but the only people that need to think that is our team and our staff. Like, nobody else matters.
Yeah, the coaches that I love listening to, and I follow a lot of soccer, but one of the coaches says, I'm not worried about the opponent. I'm worried about us.
Yeah.
I'm worried about what we believe in, how well we prepare. The rival is me. I'm the rival. Like, we have to win the game internally, so we can go out there and prove that that we're willing to win, that we're willing to pay that price. So you finished 500. Where does that rank you at a national level?
Well, we didn't finish 500. We finished 7-9.
Okay.
I wanted, like, that was a goal of mine, and it's interesting. Our strength coach put anything that you wanted to put on your lifting sheet that was going to be motivation for the year, and he just put mine down. We finished 7-9. We lost 4 matches to top 25 teams when it came down to the last match, and this was like, motivation for me personally. But we had an All-American this last year, and when you get to the national tournament, it is an individual sport. You have to qualify for the national tournament. You have individually, either through the body of work that you did through the year or through qualifying automatically through the conference tournament. And we had one qualifier this last year. He became an All-American, finished in the top 8, and I think that was a huge stepping stone for our staff, our program, to the fans, to the nation, because we had picked up a transfer from Penn State. And Penn State, to give you an idea, has won 9 of the last 10 national titles.
Wow.
And we picked up a guy that had just been behind the scenes for them and been a great guy that was a training partner, a spot starter, but never was the guy for them, like, fully. And he was stuck behind some All-Americans and national champions, and he had 1 year left, and he was from Utah, and he wanted to come back home. And he could have gone a number of different places, but he believed in the plan that I had for him personally. I told him that I'm building a schedule around helping you prepare for the end of the year and having success at the end of the year. And he finished in the top 8, which is top 8 at the national tournament is All-American. It's a double elimination tournament. So he lost a heartbreaker in the quarterfinals and came back through the consolation bracket and ended up finishing 5th. But it set the tone for our program because I think a lot of people were sitting back and just waiting to see how we are going to do. And so with his All-American finish, we finished 35th in the country, and they're 81 Division I teams, 80
Phenomenal.
Division I teams, you
Right.
know. And I mean, we finished ahead of the likes of Rutgers, Oklahoma, some of these places that have big, frankly, like a lot bigger budgets than we do, you know, and have maybe a lot more expectations from their fan groups and their alumni, you know.
Yeah.
But
And listen, you've said this before. It's a process.
Yeah.
Like if you expect to go from where the program was to number one, like that wouldn't be fair. Like you gotta pay the price. You gotta let the law of the harvest take effect. So I guess where do you see the program in the next, call it 5 years? How do you envision that? What does the coaching staff talk about with the 5-year outlay?
yeah. Now that I've been here a year, I don't know. I don't think it's reshaped really what I thought my 1, 3, and 5 year plans would be. By year 5, I don't think it's out of the realm with the quality of people that we're bringing in and how well we're developing our guys to crack the top 10. And people may look at that and see like, man, you're crazy.
You have to be, though.
You have to be a little
Yeah,
bit,
you have to be.
right? But that's how much faith I have in this program. And I said I wouldn't have taken this job if it didn't seem like it was in the right place to make jumps, that there wasn't a good network around the program, that it didn't have support from the administration, that they weren't trying to build the program. A lot of things, variables, and a lot of boxes were checked before I even got here. And thus, at that point, it's like it's up to me and up to our staff to take off and run, to sell a vision to donors, to recruits, to get the people here. Because as you can imagine, in any organization, in any business, you're only as good as the quality people that you're bringing in that fit what you're about.
Yep.
And then from that point on, you're when you're running in the same direction, man, it's scary. It's scary what you're able to do. And to be honest, like I was a part of a kind of a roughneck team that was like that, both at Boise State. I was a part of a top recruiting class that ended up there. Like out of high school, I was the number 1 ranked guy in the country at my weight class. I could have gone anywhere, but I chose to stay closer to home for a coach who's now a great mentor of mine. And we were a top 10 team 2 years that I was there with a terrible budget, without the best support that I would say, but we were a group of individuals that wanted to win. We were willing to put in the work and we believed. Right. And just over time, it happened. And that's why recruiting is so important and why it's such a big deal. And in the past, a lot of these kids from Utah, and we're the only Division I program in the state. So there shouldn't be a reason why we can't keep these guys home. But the reality is, you're not going to keep everyone. 2, you may have weight class needs that are different and we don't necessarily need somebody. And 3, they might be wanting to get out of the state anyway. Like we've lost guys recently to Minnesota, to Ohio State, to Nebraska, to Wyoming. And I think at the end of the day, like I don't get too bent out of shape with recruiting, despite the fact that I put a lot of time in. I sacrifice a lot of time away from my family and from our team in order to find the right individuals for our program. But I also signed up for this.
Yeah.
I understand that. And I understand that it's not my decision. I tell people that in the recruiting process. Like at the end of the day, I can do everything in my power to keep you here, but it's still your decision. And I think that releases a lot of pressure in the personal relationship I have with recruits, because I tell them, like, I'm not telling you I need to know by Monday, right? I want you to make a decision that you want to be here, and it is wholeheartedly the decision that you want to make to stay here.
Love it. That's beautiful. Really well said. I wanted to unpack recruiting even more. So what does that recruiting process look like? What's the time commitment like? What's the travel schedule like? Like, when do you start recruiting them? Do you start putting your eye on these kids when they're in 9th grade, 10th grade? Like, how does that all work?
The NCAA makes it harder and harder on coaches now, because it used to be where you're just recruiting people in their senior year. You're going into their senior year, they're taking a bunch of visits, then they figure it out. They have a short timeline. Now it's like the best programs in the country, they're getting in front of freshmen and sophomores before they can recruit them. They're doing clinics, they're going to different high schools, they're getting in front of them for in ways that they're able to, so they build relationships, and these kids are understanding who you are as a coach, as a person, long before you're able to communicate with them. And that's the communication starts June 15th of your going into your junior year. And now the problem is, like, you're recruiting basically
sophomore going into junior.
Yeah. So we say the rising junior year. And what happens is you're recruiting a senior class, you're recruiting a junior class, you're keeping an eye on freshmen and sophomores, and then you're also managing the transfer portal. So a lot of coaches, like you see like a guy like Nick Saban that gets out of coaching because this isn't what I signed up for.
Yeah.
I agree with that, but at the same time, if you don't evolve, you die.
Yeah.
If you don't continue growing, you die. And it's fine if like you
when
look
did
at
the
that
transfer portal start? When did that become a
fully
thing?
3
it's
years
fresh,
ago. And it's evolved to the point where there's no repercussions really for transferring academically and athletically, and there's generally ways to get around certain things if you do it at the right time. Before, and I wish they would go back to this, if you decide to transfer, you sit out a year, you lose a year, and I think that would cut down on a lot of people just losing sight of like managing adversity. I like to say this to parents and coaches. Unfortunately, today, the way college athletics is, it's getting more and more to the point where these kids, if they don't like something, they'll just up and leave. And maybe it's like, long gone are the stories of, say, I think it was, Jalen Hurts, that he didn't get the starting spot. He worked for it. He got the starting spot, won a national title, and is praised for that. And those examples are like few and far between today. Whereas now it's like, if I don't get what I want right away, I'm just going to up and leave. It's their fault. Instead of like sitting down with your coaching staff, what are areas that we're missing for you, but what are some areas that we need to hold you accountable more, or you're not listening, And I think those conversations are few and far between because people just they always think that the grass is always greener on the other side, and sometimes it isn't.
Has that changed your overall perspective on how to treat these athletes, knowing that transfer portal is there? It's gotta affect you in some way, shape, or form, right? Where it just creates more stress, because when I worked at Vivint, these guys are all 1099 and they can leave today, tomorrow, whenever, and they can take their guys with them. So you have to render that. You have to hold them accountable, but yet render phenomenal customer service so they want to stay. So it's it's an interesting dichotomy. It's like, I have to hold you accountable because I have a fiduciary of care over you, but I also want to render phenomenal service so that you want to stay. How's the transfer portal like come into play in that regard?
I always said from the very beginning, because when I was asked in the interviewing process what I thought about the transfer portal, I said, absolutely, there are some cases like the last 2 years we've actually each year we've picked up a guy from Penn State that was stuck behind just at what their coaching staff deemed better talent, and guys that were proving themselves and they weren't going to take out of the lineup, and you're leaving behind some serious talent that can make an impact someplace else. And is that the case? Yes.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways that is. In some ways it's not though. In some ways it's like this person hasn't been showing up for workouts on time. They're going through the workouts half-heartedly. There's a lot of things that you can point towards, and it's the same thing in business. You have honest, open conversations with people.
That just answered a lot for me, because you can view it as, I need these kids to stay, but on the flip side, you have kids that will enter via the portal to your program.
And I think it keeps people honest.
You kind of have to stay in touch with kids that are not a part of your program, so when that transfer portal opportunity opens up, you can absorb that talent.
And
man, that makes your job that much more complex.
It's hard.
Oh my goodness.
Because in this era of when you try to build a culture of, we recruited these guys into the program, we're trying to build them up, and at the same time bring in people. From the very beginning, I told the guys there were a few things that I was going to do right away. I was going to meet with everybody individually to understand their goals and expectations, to help them understand mine. I was going to set expectations right away, both academically and athletically. And I was also going to bring in new people. And I said, you can look at it one of two ways. These are people like, gosh, I've been needing better workout partners. I've been needing people who are pushing me. Or you can be like, man, screw this coach. He's freaking bringing somebody in that's going to take my spot. And immediately at that point, when you have, like you said, a divergence, and you have two roads that you can go down, the one road is just, it's leading to death, because you're only looking at a decision that is based off of selfishness as opposed to gratitude. Like, oh, they don't care about me. They're bringing somebody in over the top of me. There are unique cases where, like, yeah, that's kind of messed up. But in this event, I told our guys, nobody here is a returning All-American. Nobody's a returning national champion. Nobody has earned anything. Nobody's holding on to anything. So why are you worried about who is coming in? You should be excited about the new people that are coming in, the new workout partners that you're getting, the new people that are going to push you. Because if you're doing the right things and elevating yourself, which I'm calling you to be, you're probably going to end up being the guy, right? But if you don't, you're somebody's going to take your spot. And I think it's early on that these guys understand that, guys, it's not personal, but just understand that, like, even I am disposable. Just don't understand that, like, that I'm not making it personal, because I have to run this like a business. And I often tell our guys, when you are doing the right things consistently, generally the decisions involve you. And when we're making decisions that are best for the team, you're often involved. And when you're not doing the right things, you often find yourself on the outside looking in. And again, when you start adding up these different areas like academics, social life, in the room, being a good person, you have to look at the mirror and understand, like, is it all of them or is it me? Right? And I think oftentimes it's like we want to point fingers. We want to point fingers until it's like, I don't have any more fingers to point, until I can point it at myself and just say, and I have to take that to heart as a leader, because again, I'm leading people. And again, I understand that people make mistakes, but I make mistakes, and I have to be open and honest about that. And I'll be the first one to say, I am wrong. I was wrong in this situation. This is how I'm gonna move forward and be better about it. And I think immediately this wall comes down, right? And it's the same thing when I'm meeting with this team from the very beginning. April 1st, 2024, when I met with the team, first I met with them in workout clothes, because we got going right after that. And I said, I am trying to help you understand where we're trying to get to, and understand who you are as an individual before I just tell you, hey, this is how it's done. This is what we need to do. Because I need to understand how you're motivated. I need to understand where you're missing the mark. I need to understand what you need from me. And all of a sudden, just that wall of, who is this new guy? Like, who is he to come in here and tell me, like, how to run my life and what I need to do? But at the end of the day, like, one, that's my job. It's a business. I'm going to treat it as a business. But two, I understand that I have to build a relationship with you, and I'm not here to be a dictator, right? And all of a sudden this wall comes down, and I could see some guys that you knew that they were 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And all of a sudden they're just like, they had life come back to them. Because it was just like, wow, this guy cares. He cares about me as a person. He cares about me as an individual, as a student, and he's helping me be better. And you think about it in business, you could say, like, even more so, like, money is riding on the line. Everybody knows that. It's like the elephant in the room. We understand that. How do I help you be your best version of yourself? Because if I'm helping you, you're ultimately helping the company. You're helping the business. Like, we're in a great place. Is it going to be perfect? No. Are you going to make mistakes? Sure. Is it my role to help you through that? Absolutely. Right? But I have to hold you accountable. You can't just run wild. It's like a 3-year-old. Yeah, do whatever you want. No, it doesn't work that way. It's never going to work that way. And I think at the end of the day, people yearn for structure.
I agree. 100%.
I don't think anybody ever says, I wish I wouldn't have worked that hard. I wish they wouldn't have been that hard on me. It's usually like, dang, as I look back on my career, I could have done things better. I wish I would have had a coach that held me accountable more. It's almost always that way. It's never like, yeah, I wish I wouldn't have had those resources. I wish they wouldn't have pushed me that hard.
Yeah, so let's unpack that some more, because I agree 1,000% with what you just said. We think that these younger kids, right, want the loosey-goosey stuff. Oh, do whatever you want, be the cool coach. No, what they really want is structure. They yearn for it. So maybe talk to us about that and what that means to you, and how you've been able to create that structure where they feel like that structure actually gives them freedom.
That's good. I look at it for our guys, structure in 3 different areas: socially, academically, and athletically. Athletically, to me, was easy. During COVID, I developed a training plan because there was a lot of uncertainty. And I was training guys who were getting ready, and this was at NC State. I was training guys who were getting ready for a world team trial, and they were getting ready to work to make a world team. And then when they made a world team, getting ready for a world championship and trying to bring home world medals. And with that, and all the uncertainty of, like, we don't know where we're working out next week, or in a month, or in next year, right? But within that chaos, you bring in the structure of, this is how long we have. let's work backwards. This is the training plan. These are the weeks that we're training. This is our championship performance week. This is our deload week. And this is our feel good that we're going to go win week, you know? And within that came a lot of clarity and a lot of like workouts that made sense. And we had guys have success from that. And I carry that over to a training plan and the structure that we have week to week, month to month, season to season, meaning like preseason, in season, postseason, summer months, you know, our build phase. And you're sitting down again with our strength coach and our dietitian and what the addressing needs for all of our individuals and then as a whole. And when you put this structure in place, man, it's like loading your car up for going to the beach. It takes that time to get everything in, but once you have, it's like now it's we're taking off. We're not looking back. We're going, like, this is the fun part, because now you could just, all I ask you is that you show up prepared, ready to go, and have the right mindset.
Love it.
You know, athletically, academically, it was putting a lot of the structure in place. You have study hall hours. If you miss your study hall hours, you're gonna have more hours the following week. So get your hours in. If you miss an assignment, you're missing the next workout. I mean, we had guys come in with their laptops and we're watching practice, and you never saw them miss an assignment after that point.
Let me ask you this. Has it been hard to be able to enforce the consequences of not showing up for those things? You see what I'm saying? Like,
I do.
For instance, if I tell my kids, hey, if you do all your chores and you do your homework and you know you get an A in this class, then I'll give you this reward, a bike or whatever. And they got an A. It was an A, but they got an A minus. Mm-hmm. I'm the kind of dad that would be like, you didn't get the A, you got an A minus. And I tell my kids, if I were to still give you this reward for you not getting things done, then I am teaching you that you can kind of cheat life and cheat what we agreed on, and I'm setting you up for failure. Has it ever been tough for you where like, man, this guy almost got there, but I still have to enforce the structure?
Yes, because our sport is very, very unforgiving. And you see somebody put in everything they have into their life and they fall short at the national tournament, say, or to get to the national, whatever they were working to get to. And it's just super unforgiving, and it cherishes the time that people do accomplish things. So you, as a leader, you absolutely want to celebrate the wins when people get there. But I'm with you. An A minus is an A minus. It wasn't an A. And what you're teaching your kids at that point is that there will be people, not just your own parents or your coaches out there, that what they say is what they say, and what they are holding you accountable for is what they're holding you accountable for. If your mark for sales that year is 1 million, they're holding you to that 1 million because there's a lot riding on that, because they're telling somebody above them, this person is going to hit $1 million. Wow. So at that point, like, this is the expectation. This is what we need to do. I'm going to help you and provide the structure and framework to go get it. I can't set you up for failure, right? If you're not an A student, I'm gonna have you shoot for that A. If you get a B plus and you're really like a B minus student, like, I'm going to encourage you to continue to move on. And I think that you still have more in front of you. That's always that constant push. But I'm also going to celebrate the fact that you probably actually overachieved based off of you as an individual.
Love that. So when I was working at Vivint, we'd recruit a lot of guys to go direct to home, a lot of guys that would knock doors. And we always said, you know, our best two recruiting classes were farmers. And guess what the second recruiting class was?
Athlete.
Not just a D1 athlete, a specific athlete, wrestlers. Why do you think that is? And you just mentioned that wrestling is a very unforgiving sport, but, and I think you agree with this. I mean, you're in the business.
I know where you're going with this.
But like, what is it about wrestling that makes these guys, these humans so dialed in and so, like, I would say, easy for me to count on? Like, when they say something, it's done. Why?
When you look at aspects of our sport and you're in it long enough and you reach a certain level where you understand how unforgiving it is, how difficult it is, there's certain things that you get to a certain point where people don't care how you feel. They don't care that you're sick. They don't care because the guy across from you doesn't care. He's going to try to rip your head off. And as physical as I like to say it's a very carnal sport. And when people see it, it's just like, I don't know what's going on, but I think it's chaos. And it's kind of, I would say it's a controlled fight with rules. And with that comes a lot of failure. It comes a lot of, there's no other fingers to point to. And so when I talked about like all these fingers that I can point to, when you lose a wrestling match, oftentimes it's not because the coach set you up for failure. It's because you weren't prepared well. You didn't manage your weight well. You didn't get enough recovery or sleep. You didn't follow the game plan. Whatever those things, you didn't work with our sports psychologist. You have some competitive anxiety you need to manage. So when you think of like going door to door, it's like batting average. You understand that there are going to be a lot of no's, but you work until you find that yes, and then you die. I think gymnasts are very much in the same way. They're hypercritical of themselves. It's only them. They are really hard on their bodies, and they're perfectionists. And you're trying to reach that pinnacle, and until you find that, it's about that journey, and you're going to understand that there's going to be bumps along the way. There's a lot of no's. There's a lot of failures, and those guys that are the elite of the elite, they continue to keep the right mindset of I'm going until I'm finding the yes, and then I'm understanding why it was a yes, and then I'm helping myself and others around me attain more yeses.
Love it. Beautiful. Adam, this has been absolutely phenomenal. A lot of gems. So in light of a recent tragic occurrence, like that's really close to home to you, this happened on campus recently. You talk about leadership, you talk about life events, you talk about the unexpected. How does an incident like with what happened on campus, how do you cope with that, and how does leadership, how does a community come together with all the leadership that's a part of this university? How does all that all work, and how do we heal, and how do we move forward with something as tragic and devastating as what occurred with Charlie Kirk?
It's a great question. Some things popped into my mind immediately. Gratitude, selflessness, and empathy. Within those few things, I have to understand that how I process information, tragedy, pain, confusion, may be different than people on my staff, our guys, other student athletes, our administration, people around me. And I have to meet them where they're at. It hits really close to home because it was so close. It directly involved our people. And I think at the end of the day, a lot of people are looking to our leaders at the school, our leaders in administration, me as a leader, our staff, as to kind of what direction are you going to go with this. And one, I want to provide space for people to process information, to cope, to have somebody to talk to. And luckily we have a very good team of sports psychologists and then mental health specialists on campus that are going to help our students and student athletes just manage the emotion, manage the hurt and confusion, so that they can just be able to process information and hopefully start the healing process or help them through that healing process. Because again, it's not going to be perfect, and you're going to have different things that trigger emotions, and you want to meet people there, because then you show that you genuinely care about them as humans before them being students or athletes, right? And I think that goes a long way in terms of building a relationship that's even stronger. I think we have a lot of great opportunities to be around our guys and just bond and build relationships, and oftentimes that's in the battle in our wrestling room. And what we try to do is create a sense of normalcy as much as we can without being insensitive. And what that looks like, and we all kind of went through this in COVID. There was a lot of uncertainty. There was a lot of confusion. There was a lot of I don't know, and you were isolated. You were having to manage a lot of things on your own and without people. And I think it hurt a lot of individuals. And I think learning from that, just trying to create what are our guys, through the initial period, what do our guys need? I had some guys hey, when are we working out? When are we practicing? When are we lifting? What's the plan? I just said, please just be patient. so that we can kind of assess everything that we need to before we can move forward. And I think that's really important because you're gonna be managing different life events, and maybe some of them, it's like an individual and maybe has a loss in his family, and you're trying to help him through that, and or in this case, like helping a team through that, and those around you. And I think it's really important as a leader that, one, they feel supported, they feel like they're heard, and they feel like you care about them as a human being more than anything else. And I think for these guys, getting on a mat or getting under a barbell, they like getting those endorphins going and having some type of normalcy. It's helping them move forward in different ways.
Yeah, I did. Thank you for that. It's beautiful, and I know it's a sensitive topic, and I love your elegance and your grace and the space that you provide, and your insight and your IQ and EQ to know that everybody heals differently. That event means different things to different people. The media does what the media does. The clickbait does what the clickbait does. At the end of the day, we gotta humanize all these things that are occurring. And I think we're more alike than we are different. But the powers that be want to change that narrative so that they can advance their motives, which are not beneficial to you and I, or us as a people.
And we've actually encouraged. We had something come from our administration that was like, hey, encourage your guys to not speak to the media or just be all over social media, because there's just a lot of, in the beginning, there's just a lot of information that is unknown and whatnot.
Yeah.
And we the other thing about getting guys out is just, you're not sitting stewed up in your apartment.
Exactly.
What it looks like, just dwelling over social media and not being around other people. So I think the sooner you can get people, like, again, not being insensitive to events that happen, but like within the right timing and what makes sense for the group, I think you start to see people life come back to them and
so
heal.
I was going to mention that. So I interviewed Sammy Sosa. Remember him from the Cubs? You remember 9/11? I don't know if you remember him running on the field with the American flag. I remember watching that game, and 9/11, devastating, a lot of uncertainty. What's going to happen next? Who are we as a country? Who are we as humankind? Like, how did this occur? Like, what are the motives? What's going to happen next? And when Sammy grabs that flag,
he
and
sprinted.
sprints,
I'll never forget that.
Yeah, just that. Okay, like that small sense of, okay, we're watching a ball game. People can actually cheer again. Sammy is, I don't know. It was just one of those defining moments. Yep. And, I asked him that question on the podcast. He says, I just felt like he decided right then and there to do that, by the way. It wasn't premeditated. It says, I just wanted to bring joy to the people. I wanted to bring our people together through such a tragic event. And what's crazy is I remember that. I remember watching the Twin Towers fall, and I remember Sammy Sosa. Those are the two main things that I remember from that devastating day. It was one of the most tragic days to a day of, okay, I'm hopeful again. So I don't know if that makes sense or not, but I think we yearn for that. Like, how do we get back to, without being insensitive, how do we get back to like living and not just being contained where if you get in your head, you're dead type of thing?
Because I think I've heard this before. It's like the moment you allow somebody to hold terror over your head is the moment that they win. Yeah, exactly. Right. And our nation will continue to move forward. It will heal. Is it going to be perfect? No. But I truly believe in all the good that is in our country, and the good that is around us. And you just keep being the light that you want to see in the world, because if you don't do it, who will? I have something pinned to my Twitter handle, and it dawned on me in one day of basically just it's our job to step in and say, like, yeah, I'll do that. Like, I'll step up and help, instead of like, whose job is that? That's not my job. When I look at that, and like, it's all of our jobs to check in on people, to help people through tough times, because you don't know where people are at and what they're hiding and what they're holding on to. and how you can help people
Love it.
by being deliberate.
Love it. Okay, so this has been an absolutely amazing episode. I appreciate your time. You've been super graceful. A question I always like finalizing the show with is, what recommendation, what advice can you give us in regards to living your life more by design instead of just by mere default? What advice can you give us there?
I think having a plan. I think at the end of the day, just understanding what you want to do with your life, what you have passion for, then at that point, like you're laying a foundation, you're laying a blueprint, and kind of to the podcast name, you're designing your path the way that you want to, instead of like allowing it to come to you and just reacting all the time to what other people are telling you to do, or just like, oh, this is the cookie cutter what it should look like. No, this is me developing myself as a human being, who I am, my own career personally through design. And I think there's a lot of beauty in that.
Love it. And then as far as you view your career, do you foresee it always having to do with wrestling?
Somebody asked me, like, well, what would you do if you weren't a coach? And I said I'd probably be in sales. I would probably be in some type of some type of relations, because I enjoy connecting with people. I enjoy asking the right questions and understanding stories and trying to understand people's motivations. And I think that's the basis of, honestly, like half our job already is sales with recruiting, or I'm trying to sell to our guys why they should be going through this torturous workout. Half the time you're convincing people why they're doing what they're doing, or why they should invest in something. And that's honestly a lot of life.
Love it. Love it. With that said, we dropped the mic. That's another episode of Live Life by Design. Brother, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jeff.